Hi, everyone. This is a quick pep talk for company owners and their board members. There's the activity around company sales. In the public markets, it goes up, it goes down. But in terms of the millions of private companies that are changing hands these days, I kind of see this as unabated. There's also a lot of folks who've had companies for a number of years, might have hit retirement, thinking about next generation. Lots of company sales are going on. And of course, more and more, we're going to see some influence from the change in tax law. The end of 25, there's an exclusion on wealth inheritance, which is going away, and that's going to drive some decisions too. So it's a quick pep talk on getting ready to sell and how you are going to sell your company. We labeled it, sell, IPO, PE, strategic. These are just some of the alternatives, but let's dive into this. So you're ready to sell, excuse me, or you could be ready within current year. Let's talk about a couple different options. It is a little bit like hidden in a candy store, I think, because of the fact that there is such massive amounts of capital chasing around limited assets. This is good if you own a company, right? So a little bit of background first. My name is Bob Jordan. I've had a lot of years of helping owners to build and sell. I've participated in 3 IPOs. I was the lead guy getting great multiples to strategic buyers for smaller companies, smaller private companies. And that's what led me into becoming an interim CEO years ago. I don't take on gigs anymore. I run InterimExecs, the organization, which as of this recording is probably over 9,000 executives from 63 countries who've shown up. And that led us to develop a concept we call Red Team. We'll talk about that a little bit, but let's dive in now. So you're thinking about selling. One of the key things to think about is, are you selling all of it or part of it? That's a big determinant in terms of which way you're going to go. Are you going to stick around? Does your family come into play? I mean, in some ways, your family always comes into play, even if they're not really in your business. Are there managers that are key in succession here, either because they have to stay or because you're wondering what's going to happen to them? Is more of the team key? Could it be that, something as large as an ESOP is in your future? We're not focusing this talk on ESOPs, but it could be. But all of this is influencing the posture of how you go to market. And how you go to market is probably including an investment banker, and whether the focus is on financial buyers, otherwise known usually as private equity, or strategics. Second question, excuse me, is your family involved? Are founders staying on? Is there a next generation that could be kin, that has been trained and is ready? Sometimes you have non-family members who are very close and they're in the management team, and they are being trained for next generation. We've seen all of this stuff come up at InterimExecs because this is why the phone rings. We get calls from owners and management teams where they need expert leadership to help out. And in cases where family is involved, you need to be very deliberate in terms of thinking about separating ownership versus control, versus management role versus family issues. Even a small business, we had a call recently from a really interesting company. It's the mom, the dad, and 2 sons. One active son who's the CEO, one son who's very bright, but he's not a day-to-day manager. Even inside of a small group like that, very loving, very nurturing. When the subject came up of how equity was going to transfer from the parents to the children, and again, very loving. But the conversations do not flow the way that they flow when they're just talking about business or when it's just something having to do with family. So the private equity route, private equity is all around us. It used to, years ago, it used to be called the LBOs, right? Leverage buyouts. The way you go to market here for private equity or strategics is vital. It is not a one size fits all. And if you have an investment banker and advisors around you, you're going to be hearing this from them. And there's going to be questions about, to whom are you mostly appealing? In a way, when you go to market, your company is the product, right? All these years you've been at it, and whatever products you sell, services you offer, whatever it is, You've been immersed in the business and you think about how you appeal to customers and how do you grow and how do you market and all of that. Well, when the point comes and you're looking at a strategic outcome for your company itself becomes the product which is being sold. Hope that makes sense. But it very much applies to the kind of posture and how you look to that world of acquirers or partners, or if you're going public, how you're going to look to the public at large. And will you be of more appeal to financial buyers or to strategics? And then it leads to another questions is your business earnings driven, EBITDA driven, which is the dominant concern of private equity. So maybe not. Maybe your best outcome is to a strategic acquirer. Strategic, by the way, that's the phrase in investment banking. What that means is your competitors, because those are the players that tend to be most interested when there's an opportunity to gain market share, gain into an adjacency, gain new technologies. In my case, my background is an interim. I was always with early stage tech companies. And the claims to fame of early stage tech is you've got superior IP, intellectual property, superior process, but you have something that all the larger players missed, haven't yet glommed onto, and it's enough of a competitive advantage that you can be attractive. Very different motivations for strategics versus financial buyers. Far more sophistication than there used to be. I'm old enough to have gone through the internet revolution, and Internet 1.0 was kind of the last moment where there were large corporations that missed the boat, and so smaller, scrappy tech companies got huge advantage. You don't see that as much anymore. You see a whole lot more nimbleness among major corporations. So different transitions, different integration that you have to think about if you're selling to a strategic. Final point to bring up is IPO. If you have enough size, you have to have very serious earnings these days to be able to pull it off. It is unfortunate that in the public markets, there are far less IPOs than they used to be. I think there is a good sense of IPOs as a measure of the health of an economy. Yes, sometimes things become overheated, but in any case, in your particular circumstance, very different metrics around this, very different reporting and governance. A friend of mine, a very large, wonderful company, he set up his board and his reporting years in advance as a private company to get into the cadence of what it would be like to understand governance and public reporting. And that was great thinking for being in the public markets. Lots of variations on theme now. Specs are discredited at the moment, but they're still in existence. ESOPs are a great outcome for some companies. Years ago, reverse merger used to be reverse merger into a public kind of entity. Used to be a dirty word, but we have friends who created legitimate public entities that way and went on to thrive. All of this, again, gets back to the foundation of your company and thinking about how strongly earnings-driven you are as opposed to asset-driven, looking at your liquidity and the liquidity of your shareholders versus privacy. So, are you going to need help with this? Well, yeah, of course. Our theme is going to be whatever exit strategy you choose. If you want to win, you got to field a full team. And it used to be that if you're a private company and selling privately, that great lawyer, great accountant, and you're ready to go, and that's it. Not everyone even has an investment banker. I don't think that's true anymore. I think now everybody has to field a full team if you're going to get the best outcome that you can. 10 seconds of shameless promotion here. InterimExecs Red Team, we get tons of calls about this because if you can get a battle-tested fractional or interim, top tier executive, a CFO, CIO, someone in a project role to help you out, oh my God, you ought to go do it. Because you also got to consider, this is not, using a fractional interim does not increase the permanent overhead, the expenses in your organization. It's a deal-related expense. And that means you can just get so much firepower coming for you. So thanks very much. We're going to leave you with some few final questions here in terms of just thinking about what's going to make for your most ideal outcome. You know, you got one shot at this, and it has to be that you're bringing the best resources you can to bear. We're happy to help brainstorm with you. And if you would like to do that, just email us, redteam@interimexecs.com, or give us a call, 847-849-2800. Thanks.